Finally, a spin-off I can get behind. Mad Max is a new movie about this little fucker. With Mad Max Fury Road coming out in just about a week, I decided to go back and review the original 3 films. Mad Max is a 1979 movie that takes place in the near future. Well, near in 1979, so the past? Where civilization is on the brink of collapse. Biker gangs have the run on the road, and there's an underfunded police force called the Main Force Patrol. The movie follows Max Rockatansky, the best pursuit officer on the Main Force Patrol. Some bad shit happens, and then Max gets agitated. Agitated guy. Angry, upset, mildly annoyed, fast and furious. Oh, wrong movie. Pissed off. Mad. There's no cowboys and shit, but it's essentially a western. Has the same basic story of a lot of them. Bad guys come into town, law enforcement has to drive them off. This is a so-called Ozploitation film. This movie is directed by George Miller and stars Mel Gibson as Mad Max, Steve Bisley as his partner Goose, and Hugh Keays-Byrne as the villain Toe Cutter. This is one of Mel Gibson's first roles. I believe it was his second feature film. And you can tell he definitely has a baby face in the movie, but he does do a good job portraying Max. He goes through a pretty decent range in the movie, starting out as kind of the reluctant hero, shows him as the family man, and then hell-bent on revenge. The car chases in this movie are shot and staged very well. There is some great camera work. The camera is often in the middle of the action. The cameramen rode on the back of motorcycles, shot directly out of the cars. They're also often inches away from the ground and from cars at high speeds. So apparently, besides a lot of film to make this movie, it also took a lot of balls. The stunt work is very impressive in this movie, specifically at the beginning, the opening car chase, and at the end of the movie. Those stunts are done very well. But it is surprising that somebody didn't die. This movie was shot with a very low budget. Oftentimes they didn't even get to shut down roads that they were shooting on. There's one shot towards the end of the film where during a motorcycle crash, the stuntman actually gets hit with the tire of the motorcycle. Oh yeah, and also, they stuck a fucking military rocket to a car. The cars were often held together with tape, which really doesn't come through in the movie, you don't notice it, but they're on such a low budget that they had to do that. But they do come out looking great, which makes it all the more sadder when they beat the fuck out of these cars. That's probably the saddest thing in the movie. I don't know if that makes me a bad person, but seeing these cars just get beat to shit hurts. Speaking of cars, the Interceptor that Mad Max uses is just badass. It's all black and has part of the engine, I think the turbocharger, sticking out, so it just looks really intimidating. That's an awesome car. The villains are played very well in this movie as well, specifically the main villain, Hugh Keays-Byrne. He does a great job in his character. He has a good mix of crazy, funny, and intimidating. You never really know what the guy's gonna do next. On a side note, the actors that played the biker gang got their motorcycles about a month before shooting, and by the time they showed up to set, they're already like their own gang. They already had kind of like the hierarchy figured out. The main villain, Keays-Byrne, had one of his eyebrows shaved off, which just looks fucking weird, but helps to add the crazy part to it. Without giving too much away, my favorite part is the ending. Specifically the last scene. It kind of reminds me of something you'd see in the Denzel Washington movie, Man on Fire. This movie isn't perfect. It has a bit of that 70s slow burn. It has a nice car chase right at the beginning, but then slows down a bit and takes a while to ramp back up for the end of the movie. Speaking of that, for a movie called Mad Max, he's not really mad for all that long. He's really only Mad Max for the last like 10 or 15 minutes. Overall, this is still a very solid film. This movie is rated B+. So what is your favorite dystopian future movie? Mine is Escape from New York. It has Kurt Russell at the height of his badassness. It is directed by John Carpenter and has that awesome fucking score. So again, what is your favorite dystopian future movie? Make your mark below in the comments section. Please like, share, and subscribe. And thank you so much for watching. Some bad shit happens and then Max gets mad. Mildly agitated. Mildly agitated. Mildly agitated. Agitated guy. Some weird facts about the director George Miller. He originally started out as a medical doctor. It's said that he got some of the ideas for this movie from working in the ER in Australia. George Miller also went on to direct other movies, including the Babe movies and the Happy Feet movies. By Babe, I mean pig. Also, if you look behind me, there's two covers for the movie. The bottom one is the Scream Factory new artwork that they always come out with when they release a movie. Scream or Shout Factory, depending. Shout Factory is the main part of it, and Scream is kind of the subdivision. But anyway, the bottom part is the new artwork, which is clearly Mad Max, Mel Gibson on the front of it. This one, however, awesome looking, and I really like it, but that's not Mad Max on the front. That's his partner, Goose. Still looks cool, but it's just weird that you'd have the partner, Goose, on the front, and it would say Mad Max. When this movie was originally released in the US, they actually dubbed all of the Australian actors to different actors with American accents. Which, if you want to watch it for like comedy purposes, is pretty funny. Like the voices sound weird, especially when Mel Gibson has somebody else's voice coming out of his mouth. You know what Mel Gibson sounds like. I don't know if I could watch the entire movie that way, but I've watched a couple of scenes because it has it on the Blu-ray right there. It's kind of funny and it's good for a chuckle, but again, I don't know if I could really watch the entire movie that way. For those of you who don't know, this little fucker's Montana Max from the 1990s Tiny Toons TV show.